Like unmarked graves, the portraits from the Holtermann collection have laid dormant in the vaults of the State Library of New South Wales in Sydney for over 7 decades. They now rest in their cryogenic black and white state, seemingly without a past or a future. Their fixed gazes stare back at us as frozen subjects from history. But who were they? By researching each individual, and as more and more details are discovered, they will slowly regain the colour they once had, but more importantly, their personality that has eluded them for over 150 years. Come with us back in time as we attempt to bring these forgotten strangers back to life. While many photos in the Holtermann collection are almost pristine in their appearance, there are many more that have not aged so well. This rather distinguished-looking gentleman is by today's standards a man in his senior years and has possibly aged better than his photograph. Any guesses as to how old he was when this picture was taken? Was he in his early 80s, late 70s? He appears to be older than someone in their 60s and certainly not anyone in their 50s. His hands were not cracked and dry as his fellow Hillenders were, or this photo, nor were they shaking from continually digging or drilling into dirt or solid rock for precious metal. This man was not a labourer, but otherwise bared witness to more graphic scenes through these steely blue eyes than any man should have. When A2823984 sat for this portrait in 1872, he was just 35 years old. To find out where these intense eyes of concentration first opened, and where and when they finally closed, and in addition, all the pain and suffering they witnessed in between, let's go back in time to see if we can reveal the colour within this unnerving but caring gentleman. Unfortunately, this portrait is so badly damaged it makes it impossible to identify the subject by way of the usual process of reversing the negatives as seen in previous episodes. But fortunately, an additional plate exists in the collection. That is a copy of this actual photograph. It is locked in place on an apparatus, possibly designed and built by the studio, to photograph the original hard copy paper prints for reproductions. And while the original plate is completely void of a description, this copy is clearly marked and identified as Mr. Carroll. But if we look even closer, the Mr. tag otherwise reads and is now identified as Dr. Carroll. It's quite possible that Dr. Carroll himself ordered an additional reproduction of this photo, as the description in its entirety transcribes as Dr. Carroll's copy. So now we have a name and even a profession. The cracks in this 153-year-old photograph are slowly dissolving, and as a result, Dr. Carroll is also beginning to reclaim some clarity. During the Victorian age, professions such as doctors and school teachers were among the most respected occupations, so much so that these professionals often spent almost their entire lives known just by their surname, preceded by their profession. Most school teachers were only ever known and addressed to by their students as Mrs., Miss, Mr, or Sir, and their Christian names remained an enigma. Likewise, family doctors were lifelong guardians of generations and were almost accepted as extended members of the family, but respectfully, they were only ever addressed as doctor. Dr. Carroll was born about 85 kilometres to the north of Dublin in Dundalk, Ireland in 1837. His parents were Dr. Patrick Carroll and Esther. He was christened by them as Walter John Carroll. It is believed that Walter graduated from medical school in Dublin and presumably from the prestigious Trinity College, which was established in 1700. And by 1864, he arrived in the Australian state of Victoria, where he is registered at a place called Sailors Gully, Sandhurst, and for the first time as a surgeon. Today, Sandhurst, in the outer suburbs of Melbourne, is a relatively new subdivision, developed in the early 2000s, and doesn't appear to have any direct connection to anything relating to the name of Sailors Gully. However, gold was discovered in 1852 in an area of Bendigo, much further to the north of Melbourne. The find was allegedly made by a group of sailors who had abandoned their ships, where the goldfield then became known as Sailors Gully. At the age of 27, and with his feet now planted in Australia, Dr. Walter John Carroll appears to be the surgeon operating on miners for all manner of mining-related injuries in Sailors Gully, Victoria. And with this new discovery, the cracks and greyscale of over 150 years are again further dissolving. His time from May 1864 in Sailors Gully seems to be short-lived because by July later that same year, Dr. Carroll then finds his way to Sydney and is enrolled as a public servant in the New South Wales health system. Between 1864 and 1866, just 2 short years, he seems to fluctuate between the town of Goulburn, 150 kilometres to the south of Sydney, and various locations in the city of Sydney, such as Bathurst Street, Castlereagh Street, and is even recorded as sharing an address with a professor of music named Andrew Moore, ironically, in Goulburn Street. The town of Goulburn would later have a significant impact on Dr. Carroll's life, but first, the most significant impact would come on the 22nd of January 1867, when Walter John Carroll, Esquire, married Mary Elizabeth O'Brien at St Mary's Cathedral in Sydney. This photo is identified in the Holtermann collection as just Mrs. Carroll, but a further photograph of the same woman from a different profile is identified as Mrs. Dr. Carroll. Confirming that this is Mary Elizabeth Carroll, née O'Brien, born in Appin near Campbelltown in 1840, and was the daughter of Dr. Bartholomew O'Brien. Dr. Carroll waited 30 years to find the love of his life, and with this, he receives another burst of blood running through his veins. On the 29th of March 1868, 1 year after their marriage, Mary gave birth to their first child in Sydney, a girl they named Grace Magdalene. And returning to the portraits in the Holtermann collection, this is a photo of Miss G. Carroll, which by a process of elimination could only be Grace Magdalene Carroll. There has been a lot to unpack about the life and times of Dr. Walter John Carroll, and probably too much to fit into just one video. So, this has been part 1 of this 2-part episode. Please stay tuned for part 2, where we will further reveal the colour within Dr. Walter John Carroll, Esquire.